Could be. Could be. Could be. Could be. Let's see. Well, it all depends. I got new glasses last year, and don't tell anybody, but they're bifocals. But they're, what do they call? Not recessive. I don't think it's called progressive. Anyway, but it's something where you can't see the lens. You can't see the line between the faraway glasses and the near glasses. And when they asked me if I wanted the glasses, I said, what I wanted. I said, well, I want the. I think I don't think this is the right word, but the word I said was progressive lenses. Maybe these are progressive lenses. Anyway, and they asked about something else that sounded like progressive. And I said, yeah, that's what I want. What I didn't realize was that I was agreeing not only to the invisible line here, but to glasses that change color when you go outside, so they become real dark. And so I have to be careful if I'm getting on these shows. That I guess if I look up straight into the light, does it turn? No, it's not enough light. Well, there might be just a little tint. But if I come straight in from outside, yeah, even on a not necessarily bright day, I'll end up with darkness. And it's like, whoa, it's dark in here. And then I realize it's not dark in here to me. It's kind of nice. It's not like dark glasses, but, it probably helps save the eyes a little bit. A little bit. Welcome, Ken. Welcome, Tommy. Patiently waiting from Northern California. You think about California, it used to be, it's the California vibe, everything was the beach vibe, the surfer vibe, everything was chill. California doesn't seem to have that reputation much longer. Yeah, but if you want chill, come to Southern Alabama. We can do some chill. Yes, sir. We can do chill. In fact, we are so chill. Some of us can't even spell it. No, it's not that bad. Actually, the educational system's pretty good, at least around here. Yeah. Hello, Marie. Welcome. Good to see you. Glad to have you. Yes, indeedy. It's John's trophy wife. Yeah, really. How did he do that? Of course, nah, I'm not going to go there. Not going to go there. Not going to go there. I mean, well, I'll go there a little bit. Trophy husband. Yes, he could be. He could be. Okay, not going there any further. Interesting show today. It's going to be more of a conversation, so I hope you'll join in. And I'll be including your comments. Yeah. Oh, look at that. She says, we all know he's the trophy. I'm just the one bringing home the money. Now that is the trophy. Dave is here. It's actually pretty chilly in Southern California right now. Really? Wow. Okay. Well, glad for it. Oh, you know what? I think I had some blur in this background. Where did it go? Did I yeah, let's see if we can find it. Layers. Position. Effects. There we go. Effect. Let's add some blur. Oh, it just blurred. Or was it blurred already? No, it wasn't blurred already. Let's check it. Where is it? Here it is. Come on, find it. It's right there under pre-show. Virtual pre-show. Ah. Is that different from the pre-show pre-show? Interesting. Interesting. Uh, Tommy had to go there. Tommy had to go there. Yeah, let's don't go there, Tommy. Let's don't go there. What is this? This sort of nonsense. Oh, I see. That's just leftover. You know, when you deal with a preset for the longest time, and and you use that same preset over and over and over and over again, um, sooner or later, you know, you're you end up with all this preset clutter, let's call it. And so you end up with all these inputs. How many inputs do we have today? We have 77 inputs. We really don't need 77 inputs. Let's close that one. And we'll close that one. And we'll close that one. Can we do that without messing up anything? And we'll close that one. Yeah, there we go. And so now we're down to 73. Oh my goodness. Well, let's save this preset so we don't get those back next week. What happens if you blur a blurred background? Does it get clear? It gets clear all of a sudden. Not to drag in the mud, but has this election been as crazy as 2022? We in Europe only hear the worst and the best. I think the press, the hoop-de-doo about this election here in the U.S. was quite a bit, and as it turned out, it was pretty mundane, what we would call off-year election. You know, 2020 being a presidential election, 2024 being a presidential election, 2022 not being a presidential election. We had a third of our Senate up for re-election. And of course, all of our House of Representatives was up for re-election. Previously, the Senate and the House of Representatives were held by the same party that the president belongs to, the Democrat Party. And so remains to be seen, the votes are still being counted, as to whether the Democrats were able to hold the Senate and hold the House. It was actually a 50-50 tie in the Senate, which means the vice president, who's a Democrat, cast the deciding vote. So that would be considered a Democrat Senate. Yeah. So we'll see. Florida was a anomaly in a lot of ways, I think, because it was a big win, and I think bigger than everybody expected. So we'll have to see what the long and short of that is. Yeah. Guess who's been using a beta version for streaming? Starts with a T and ends with an M. Oh, no, wait. Starts with a J and ends with an N. Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. You are working your butt off to keep that trophy wife of yours. All right, Gunner's here now. And where it says you got this is supposed to be an emoji of a guy waving like this or giving a thumbs up or something like that. So that's Gunner, but apparently it didn't make it through in the, what was that with the finger? Frame rate. Gotcha, frame rate. Oh, we'll be talking about that a little later. But Gunner, glad to have you. And I'm not the only one that says that. In fact, it's a thing. Okay, so this is just going to be the John and Marie show. What can we say? And the Tommy show. Yep. But it's funny. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. All right, we got a couple seconds here. Oh, yeah, look, there's a clock right there. And it's counting down. 2:30. So let's get a little sip in. Not a sponsor. Okay, let's see. Oh, let's check one more thing. How is the audio sync today? Should be about spot on. Welcome, Otis. Glad to have you from Texas. I love it. I love it. That's my favorite comment of the day right there. Twice. Oh, goodness. Your own show. Where is your dressing? Where is your dressing room? I just assumes that you're dressed. If not, we'd rather not know. All right, let's get the show on the road here, shall we? Chill out. Be right back. We got the audio good. Thank you, Tom. We've got the proverbial X Keys XK80. Why did I say proverbial? I meant the venerable. And so we're going to press the purple button. And away we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is going to be the good stuff today. Yeah, that's right, Tim. It's showtime. It's showtime. I'm Tom Sinclair. It says it right here. Yep, I get that. Streaming Idiots, back in June, we celebrated our 10th anniversary. Can you believe that? Who would have thought? Oh, my gosh. Steve's here. Steve, what do you have to remind everybody in the chat of? Please don't forget. Thank you. Right on time. Hey, Clint. Clint and I are going to do a workshop. I'm not sure when, but we're going to do a workshop. Thank you, Otis. Intended for young people, students, high school and college, to learn how to do the basics of a camera op for sports, primarily football, but we'll probably include basketball too. Anyway, Clint, we got to get together on that. It's not a big rush, but I don't want to forget it because I think that's going to be cool. I think that's going to be cool. And I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of schools across the country to help them elevate their productions. And one of the ways, I slipped right in, this is a segue. By the way, before I get into the segue, Streaming Idiots, 10 years old, in our 11th year. Can you believe that? We're actually the public relations arm, outreach arm, the misinformation arm of Eastern Shore Broadcasting, my company, Eastern Shore Broadcasting. And Eastern Shore Broadcasting, we're a vMix reseller. We're a Bird Dog reseller. Oh, don't let me forget to tell you about Bird Dog. We are a PTZ optics reseller. And what's the name of this keyboard company? Yeah, we love our family at X Keys up in PI Engineering in Michigan. Did you know the X Keys are made in the USA, made in Michigan? It's really, really cool. Thank you, Tommy. I was on the Bird Dog Roundtable yesterday as the dumbest man in the room. You don't ever want to be the dumbest man in the room. Well, maybe you do. It all just depends on the circumstances. But anyway, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, we design and build PCs using vMix for live streaming. So if you are in the market for a PC and you're thinking, golly, do I go to a big box store and buy a box, or do I buy one online and put it all, kind of assemble all the system together myself with the cameras and microphones and all that kind of stuff. Or you can talk to somebody that does it every day. And that's what we do. So easternshorebroadcasting.com. Contact form is there. You can shoot us an email. You can call. You can write. You can stop by the studio. Stop by the studio. No, Marie, we don't do the Stream Deck. Don't do the Stream Deck. We prefer the X keys. I think the X keys are more durable. I think they're better for a commercial environment. The Stream Deck is kind of like a little bit more fragile, I would say. Yeah, fragile. Yeah. Oh, she was teasing. Thank you, Dave. I wouldn't have picked up on the comic part of it. So, so that's Eastern Shore Broadcasting. We'd love to help you, and we consult. If you just want to talk to somebody that has been around the block or a time or two, talk to Dave. Anyway, so today is kind of a answer the question why. Why do this? Why stream in 4K? Why stream 60 frames a second? Why stream to multiple destinations? Tom, you're not doing all those things. Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Let's start with 4K. Today's show is being recorded on my PC that I built here in our workshop in 4K. Because we're using a 4K camera, the BirdDog P400, which is a 4K camera, 2160, but it only does 30 frames a second, which is great. Nothing wrong with 30 frames a second, especially for a show like this. This is an ideal format for 30 frames a second. And it's also kind of an ideal format for 4K, not because this mug is so beautiful that you need to see it in 4K, but because this is a show about live streaming, and we want to show you what things look like. Tommy sent me a message via pigeon. Check my cat for feathers. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, so we want to show you what things look like and act like. For example, vMix has put out a new beta, 26.0.0.18, which means they had 17 internal alphas before they released their .18 beta to the general public to play around with and try to break. And I'm sure there have been some bug reports, nothing that's made my radar. Anyway, we do things like use the beta so that if it breaks, you can see it break. And if it doesn't break, you can see it not break. We had discussion in the pre-show, should we use a vMix beta for a paid production? Apparently somebody did. Does that mean it failed or didn't fail? Don't know. There's some features that you might like to have. Like, let's see. We're going to take just a short detour here, and we're going to say we're going to do let's just do a merge. There we go. We're merging, and we've got just a little bit of blur in the background here. We did that through is it the Gaussian or Gaussian blur? And so we've black, and we'll bring it back the other way. I like that one just a little bit better. So you may want to use that because it's there and it's a feature that may be valuable to use to do in a production. But Marie says, as long as you don't use the mysterious blue smoke, that's right. Whatever you do, don't let the smoke out of the device. Yeah, if the smoke stays in. The 4K that we're doing today, we've matched it up with YouTube. And so let me get the stream specs up here. We are streaming to YouTube 4K at 14 megabits per second. My internet connection is pretty steady a 20 meg upload. The rule of thumb is don't use more than 50% of the available tested bandwidth. I test my bandwidth periodically. I didn't test it today, but it always tests at 20. And it's always a consistent 20. I mean, it hits 20, slams into 20, and stays there for the duration of the test. You know how some tests where the speed will just kind of ramp up as they negotiate a little faster speed. That's not the case here. Mine slams to 20 and stays at 20 until I do the next test. So Dave has given it to me Gaussian. Thank you, Dave. Bless Dave's heart. Holy cow. So the idea is that YouTube is getting 14 megabits per second. Well, they may not necessarily be getting 40. Let's use Task Manager here real quick. Let me show you what I'm doing. Holy cow. Add desktop capture. I just closed a bunch of desktop captures a second ago. Let's see if this is the right one. No, that's not the right one. Add input, NDI desktop capture, local desktop capture, display one. Yeah, that's it. All right, so we'll go off into infinity here. And I just want to go down here. We'll go to here to stream, and you can see that my stream is set for H.264, 2160p, 14 megs per second. All right, so let's go down here, and let's just go to Task Manager for just a second. And I'm going to roll Task Manager in. And let's go to the Performance tab and to the Ethernet tab. And what the numbers we want to pay attention to are right here. And you can see that this is for my PC. This is not for the network necessarily. My PC is sending 10.6, 8.6, 8.7, 9.3, 10.8. It's receiving 180. That's the 4K camera. But it's not broadcasting. It's not live streaming at 180. In fact, it's barely doing 10. Even though I've set it for 14, there's just not that much data. Now, maybe if I wave my hands and make the pixels change a lot, we can watch that. Yeah, it bumped up there to 12.5 for just a second, and it stays up 10, 12. Yeah, there you go. So if we had a lot of motion, a lot of reason to have extra pixels sent, it will, but it's not right now. So even though I'm setting it at 14, I'm only effectively using up to about 10. 10.5, 12 if I fidget a lot. Okay? All right, so let's go back here. So what YouTube is taking my 10, and can I show you my YouTube for just a second? Let's see. Can we do that? Yeah, let's do that. That's worth a look. So I'm going to just, we'll do another desktop capture so I don't have to drag that window in. And whoops, wrong button. Got to hit the right button for these things to work. Desktop capture, local desktop capture, display one. There we go. Okay, so this is my YouTube interface. And what you want to make note of right here, if you can see the cursor where it says warning, the stream's current bit rate, which is essentially about 6K, is lower than the recommended bit rate. We recommend you use a streaming bit rate of 23.5. Well, that's not going to happen. And don't pay attention to that guy in the window over here because he's 30 seconds behind time. But you can see in this interface, it does show me the concurrent viewers, which is 18, although down here it says concurrent viewers is 16. It showed there was a dip for a second down to 4, but I think that's just an anomaly. And then it's got the chat right here. And as Jan says, it's hard to push 14 when you're just doing a talking head. I would have to have a bigger head. All right, let's go back here. There we go. So YouTube is complaining a little bit that I'm not giving it enough data. In fact, now it's complaining because I'm only sending it 1.7K, because that was the static shot. That was this shot right here. And it says, 1.7K is lower than the recommended bit rate. So that's okay. But that's okay. YouTube can complain all it wants to. The bottom line is that it is a 4K image that's being live streamed from this 4K camera and this 4K face. And actually, face is probably worth more than 4K, but that's neither here nor there. And if it's important for the show, it's a deal. It's a thing. 4K is going to be cool. If we were doing, let's say we were doing a no shave November show, which we're not, and we needed to see the fact that we weren't shaving in November, the 4K would really be able to illustrate that beautifully. If we were doing things that required a good amount of detail, the 4K is going to be the ticket. It really is. If we want to separate ourselves from the rest of the pack that are just doing 1080p, 4K is a way to do that. Obviously, if it's a multi-camera production, each camera's got to be 4K, or you're not really doing anything. Just a little side note, but as an illustration, we're going to do a live stream next week on the Streaming Idiot Show from the actual studio part of this studio, instead of the control desk right here, which you've probably seen. If not, I'll show you again, because we've got a special guest coming all the way from Australia. We've got Eamon Drew from Bird Dog, one of the co-founders of Bird Dog, coming into the studio. And he and I are going to do a show over there for the Streaming Idiot Show. And we'll be using a 4K camera. We probably will be using other cameras too as supplements, but I don't have that many 4K cameras. So they may be, if we end up using them, we're going to have a mixture of a 4K main cam and then two, 1080p cams coming at it from the sides. We'll just have to see. We're not sure about that. But the idea would be that we want to put the best image out there, 4K. Now, that doesn't mean that the viewer is going to get 4K. The viewer may get 144. If you're viewing on your phone, if you're viewing on your iPad or your iPad mini, or even on your PC, YouTube is going to detect your bandwidth. I don't know how they do that, and is going to send you a resolution that is best fitted for your bandwidth. You know how you can go into the picture over here, there's a little setting icon, and you can change the resolution. You can force a higher resolution than what you might get under auto, but you also may find that you get some frame drops or some lag or some buffering. That's why the auto generally is going to give you the smoother picture. But if you've got a great internet connection, I mean, sitting at home watching YouTube on the big screen, which is hooked directly into my internet, I can force a 4K picture, and it looks sweet. It looks really, really good, especially on a big screen. 720 looks okay, 1080 looks good, but 4K looks magnificent. Not this face necessarily, but just a 4K image. So there's a reason to stream 4K. The beauty of streaming to something like YouTube as a destination is that YouTube will take my single 4K stream, and they will re-encode it into 1080p, 720p, 480p, 360p, 240p, and 144p. How many is that? 7. So that you, as the end user, whether you know it or not, have 7 different options for the resolution that you're going to get, including the possibility of the very best option. Now, when I set up YouTube for this broadcast, and actually I set it up a long time ago and I just reuse the same settings each week, I set it up for what YouTube calls normal latency, as opposed to low latency or ultra low latency. Even though this is a talk show, and typically we would think in a talk show we want to use ultra low latency, so there's very little lag between the time I say it and you hear it, and then you can respond, and then I can respond back to you. I think there's 20 seconds, maybe 15, 20 seconds latency between the time I say it and it gets to you, and then you can type and then back to me. And if you say, yes, I agree, I'm not sure what you're agreeing with, or if you're disagreeing. But the idea is, by using normal latency, that I'm giving YouTube the opportunity to take my 4K stream and re-stream it to you in its best quality. And that's the way it works. If I did, in fact, we probably should do an experiment and do a low latency stream and then an ultra low latency stream, so you can compare the 3 and just see how they look. Can't do that today. Don't want to stop this stream, but we'll set it up for another time when we can do that and play around with it a little bit. So that's how I'm doing what I'm doing today, is in a 4K camera, 4K in vMix, 14 megabits per second on the upload, even though we're not using all of it. Effectively, it's 10, and actually the 10 here is upload of whatever we're uploading. Whether we're sending data to something else here in the studio, it's just the number from the PC, but apparently only 6 or 8 of it is actually getting up to YouTube, and YouTube is complaining. Right now it says it's receiving 7.8, and they'd like to have 23. I don't even have 23. I could experiment with it one day. Well, I know what would happen if I said 23. Eventually vMix would just give up and say, hey, we can't, the buffer's full. Yeah, that's what it would say, the buffer's full. So that's the concept of 4K. When you want to separate yourself from the rest of the pack, when you've got a partner like YouTube that will give your viewers an opportunity to not see a buffered 4K stream, but to see a 1080 or 720 or whatever stream that fits what they can view best. If you get to a third-party destination, let's say like Dacast or StreamHoster or somebody like that, you would probably have to buy the feature of re-encoding all of your stream, or you might have to send multiple streams in different resolutions at varying bit rates. Not something that I could do today, because I don't have enough bandwidth to do that with 20 megs up. I say 20 megs up. I remember when I used to stream at 300K. I mean, we were streaming 320p at 30 frames a second, but only using a teeny bit of bandwidth, because all we had was 500K, and we knew we couldn't. And that 500 was fluctuating. Anyway, those were the bad old days. So that's my argument for 4K. Now, keep in mind, this argument for 4K is from the same guy who resisted leaving standard definition and going to high definition. I resisted going from what essentially was 480p, and yeah, it was a long struggle for me to finally. Part of it was and just a little side note, part of it was it meant a financial commitment on my part. New cameras, new capture card, faster PC to go from standard definition to high definition. And I didn't think there was anything worth seeing at high definition. Now I realize there's still nothing worth seeing in 4K, but it helps people understand the benefit of 4K. And there are folks that are out there that are streaming routinely in 4K because they can. So put that in your toolbox. It may be the kind of thing that you tell your clients if you're streaming for a living that, yeah, we can do 4K, no problem. The client may not have the bandwidth to do 4K, or you may not be able to supply mobile bandwidth to do 4K, but that doesn't mean you can't do it under the right circumstances. So give it a try. All right, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about frame rate. If you're here in the States, you're using 30 frames a second or 29.97, or you're using 60 frames a second, or what would that be, 59.94. If you're across on the other side of the world, you're using 25 frames a second or 50 frames a second. Why? Because of the cycles and the lighting. Long explanation, don't understand all of it, but the lights cycle. And that's why if your camera's got waves in it sometimes, little dark bars that go like this, it's probably because you're in a PAL frame rate instead of being in an NTSC frame rate. Anyway, you can look that up. But suffice to say, today we are live streaming at 29.97 frames per second. I'm not going to go into the explanation of what happened to the other 3/100ths. You can look that one up. It's out there in the internet. But for the discussion, let's just call it 30 frames a second. So today we're streaming at 30 frames a second. So when I move my hand, you are seeing in 1 second, 1001, that was 30 individual frames right there. The problem is if I move my hand like this, you may not see, each individual little segment, or I may not even be showing you each individual little segment because there may be more motion than there is 30 frames of video per second. That's where something like 60 frames of video per second comes in. And so a lot of sporting events are live streamed at 60 frames a second. In fact, in the old days, including probably last weekend, a lot of sporting events were streamed in 720 so that they had enough bandwidth to stream at 60 frames a second. Instead of doing 1080p 30, they did 720p 60 so that the bandwidth usage would be relatively close, and that they would have a smoother image and sacrifice just a little bit of resolution in order to do that. Today, 4K 30, because my lovely P400 is not capable of doing 60 frames a second. Now, previously, I guess it's been a couple of months, I was using the BirdDog P200, which is a 1080p 60 camera. So I was live streaming HD, 1080p, at 60 frames a second. And the difference was the motion was just a little bit crisper, just a little bit smoother. And if there was any motion like this, you see how the fingers are kind of breaking up a little bit? If there was any motion like that, that motion was much, much clearer at 60 frames a second. There's been an argument for probably the last 2 years, why should we do 60 frames a second? It doubles the amount of bandwidth. Don't forget that. It doubles the amount of bandwidth you're using. It doubles the amount of frames of video you're sending. I wish we could, again, turn that off and turn it on. And if I can get a 60 frame a second, well, I've got plenty of 60 frames a second cameras here. But we'll do a little bandwidth test one day and show just what the difference would be at 60 frames a second versus 30 frames a second in terms of bandwidth and in terms of clarity. But I'll tell you, the 60 is clear. If you're live streaming any kind of sporting event, even cornhole, Even baseball, something slow and not very active, it looks better at 60 frames a second. If you're streaming a church service, it looks better at 60 frames a second. If you've got the bandwidth, in fact, our little church, we've got much better bandwidth now. We're doing 1080p 60 because it just looks just a little bit better, And we're not doing instant replay, although that would be interesting sometime. Replay part of the sermon, replay a baptism, something like that. Replay the wedding kiss. Yeah, you could do that. And at 60 frames a second, you could do it at 50% speed, and it would still be 30 frames a second, which looks pretty decent. And that's one of the reasons why you would do 60 frames a second in a sporting production, not only because the live stream, the live action looks so much better, but because when you did a replay, the replay wouldn't be all choppy at 10 frames a second or something like that. It would go from 60, if you were doing 75% speed, it would go from 60 frames a second to 45 frames a second. If you were doing 50% speed, you can do the math. So that's two good reasons to do 60 frames a second. One is if you're doing sports. Actually, that's three good reasons. One, if you're doing sports, it looks better. And number two, the replays look better. And number three, if you're doing anything else, 60 frames a second looks better. But it increases the bandwidth that you have to use. Everything has a trade-off. So yeah. Now, I've had people experiment and say, okay, well, I'm going to use 24 frames a second. 24 frames a second is typically the frame rate for a movie, a live production movie. Back to the old, film. It was 24 frames a second. That's just the way it worked out, never changed, and that's the cinema look. Don't do that. And if you're in the US, don't do 25 frames a second, thinking that you're saving on bandwidth, because your production is going to look worse. Better to do it at 30 frames a second and work with a provider like YouTube that will re-encode your videos, so you're still getting a full frame rate, still 30 frames a second, but maybe your resolution is decreased just a little bit. The one thing we haven't mentioned in all of this, because it doesn't really come into play, is the audio. 60 frames a second of video, the audio is still there. It's still doing its thing. It's not impeded one way or the other. 4K video, same thing. Audio is still there. Doesn't improve the quality of the audio, doesn't make it worse. So yeah. So Xavier Francis says 720p and 1080i use about the same bandwidth. Yep. Probably wouldn't ever stream in 1080i. It's interlaced and it's not intended for live streaming. In fact, if you look, even today, sometimes you'll see people that are streaming interlaced, and that'll be the video that has the little teeny lines in it like this. As the interlacing, the interlacing shows up as one half frame of video interlaces with the other half frame. In TV, that's covered up, that's hidden, that blends in. But in live streaming, it doesn't. So we wouldn't ever live stream something 1080i. Doesn't mean you can't take an interlaced camera and bring it into your production in vMix and have it de-interlaced. And vMix has a couple of different methods of doing that. But you wouldn't ever live stream something interlaced unless you wanted that effect. Yeah. Let's flip over to the post show. And we'll run back through the comments. I said I was going to pay attention and we would have a discussion, but then I went off on a tear. So there's no telling, it's, I'm an idiot. What can I say? Sit tight. We'll be right back. Okay, so there we go. So here was Xavier's comment. And 1080p, excuse me, 1080i would use about the same bandwidth at 30 frames a second versus 30 frames a second. Yep. Interesting comment from Jan. The frame rate he uses in the camera depends on the lighting. If it's LED, he sets it for 60p. 60, really? Really? I always try to produce 30 or 60 because that's what computers use most often. Interesting. How is your lighting working? I mean, are you getting any problems with any banding, you know, kind of faint black banding? Can I don't know that I can do. Oh heck, let's try it. I think I can show you what I'm talking about. Let me go into the settings for the bird dog here. And I'll show you my bird dog settings while I'm going into it. So this is my bird dog. Let's go ahead and log in. I'm going to tell you my password because the password appears right there on the screen. It is bird dog, but it's all lowercase. Okay, so currently my video resolution is 260 and my video frame rate is 2997. And where is we're going to go to AV setup. Yeah, that's where I need to go. There we go. AV setup and video format. And we're going to change this to 2160/25. So this will be a PAL setting. And it'll take the camera a second to reset. So I'll be back in just a second. There we go. There we go. And let's see. Does it not like that frame rate? Oh, I see it. It readjusted the camera. There we go. So you can see now the frame rate is a little choppier. That's a little better. And let's just pull the camera in kind of natively. So we'll take the chroma key off for just a second. And yeah, I don't see the bands on there I saw earlier. That's good. Well, I take that back then. But if you ever do see bands, that's where they're coming from. So let's go ahead and change this back to 2160, 2997. There we go. And we'll give the camera a chance to reset. Come on, camera. We'll turn our color key back on and zoom her in. There we go. Oops, a little bit too much. There we go. All right. So that's what Jan's doing, huh? And Xavier says the shutter angle can help. And Jan says it's not an issue. And here's the difference, that a cheaper LED won't have a separate PSU, and so it will bring it in at whatever the AC is. That's right. So Jan has got to do multiple bit rates and a clean feed, which vMix, of course, can do. Yeah, yeah. You know, Rich, you say that in joke, in jest, I think, but in actuality, it wouldn't double the bandwidth, but it probably would increase the actual bandwidth used. Not the amount that you say you're going to stream. Like I say, I'm going to stream 14K right now, or 14 megs, Mbps, little m. But if there were a second person in here, you know, again, creating more movement, it would increase the amount of bits that we were streaming. I don't know that it would double it. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I would have to be doing a lot of motion, no doubt. 13 megs when it comes to his fiber. Let's see. Where are we? Trying to catch up with some of the notes here. There we go. I think I'm about caught up. Yep. And thank you, Steve. Very good. Well, you know, funny story about that, Tommy. We're talking about John Knutson, who is the head of tech support for BirdDog here in the U.S. and maybe worldwide. I think it is worldwide, actually. And the guy's brilliant. The guy is flipping brilliant and gentle and thoughtful and, you know, and courteous and kind. And I think he's one of those people that sense somebody like me is just sort of not the brightest bulb with the rest of the group. And so he treats me with with kid gloves. He's like, okay, it's Tom. He's a great guy. You know, it was like one of those things. So there we go. That's right. That's exactly what I was in that show yesterday. I think you can pick it up if you go to YouTube and go to, I think it's BirdDog John, Jon, kind of like Jan. And it was yesterday's show. And there was some, let's see, Mike Watson was on it. And two other guys that I did not know. And then John from Streaming Alchemy was on there. So, yeah. Okay. What else have we got here? Yeah, that's interesting, Ken. I had hoped to be able to work with that specifically prior to the show today. And what you're hearing is it's not an automatic gain, at least not in vMix. vMix does have that option to add automatic gain to each one of your audio inputs. But we're using something, a noise filter, a VST3 plugin from Waves Audio called NS1, which is essentially a noise filter. And it picks certain frequencies like AC noise and fan noise and things like that, and it cuts them out. But one of the downsides of that is that it must have some sort of automatic gain control in it because it will increase the the background noise until there's something coming through the mic. So if I'm quiet for 10 seconds, you can begin to hear this hiss kind of rise. So let's try that. Ready, set, go. So you probably were to hear that hiss ramp up as there was quiet there. And that's why. Now, I was talking with Scott Whitney from Podworks. You remember Scott and Nick hosted the Streaming Idiots meetup at NAB this past spring out there in Las Vegas at their cool new studios. I think the video from that meetup is still, yeah, it's on our YouTube channel at Eastern Shore Broadcasting, so you can go back and look. And really cool setup there. They share this. I think they've got 11 different sets in this building. And Scott was very gracious to invite us in to be the host of our party. But he was telling me about a new noise filter from Waves Audio, and let's see if we can pick it up here real quick. Waves Audio professional mixing plugins. And let's see if I can just, it was a noise reducer. Oh, golly. Oh, I know. I'll go to my licenses. That means I have to log in. Sign in. 1 second. This won't take but just a second, I promise. And it will be worth your while. It will be worth your while. Where's Tom? Where's his products? And where's the demo? And the demo is called Clarity VX. Clarity VX. And so let's search for it. Clarity VX. Yeah, it's $40. And there's also a Clarity VX Pro, but that means it's too confusing for me. And it's intended to support vocals. And so it says it has extremely high fidelity noise reduction for vocals, lightning fast results, simple to use, no learning curve. Woohoo! Perfect solution for musicians, producers, mix engineers, content creators, and mono stereo. And then it's got some people that have given, well, I guess I could show you what I'm looking at. How about that? I'll show you this. And let's do a quick sharpen. There we go. And so these guys are talking about it. And yeah, so apparently with Waves Audio, that's Waves Audio right there, you can get a demo version. And you can use it for 7 days and so sort of test it out. I've actually downloaded that at the church, and I was going to install it and use it, but I ran out of time. So my 7-day subscription may be up by this Sunday, or my 7-day demo period may be up by this Sunday, but I was going to use it as a replacement for the NS1 for that exact reason. Sorry to go through a long, drawn out explanation, but that would be the reason, is to see if it didn't have something that didn't have the automatic gain control in it. So there, yeah. Do we feel that 4K actually looks better with on a 1080p monitor? Yes. Yes. I mean, can I quantify it? No. But I think it looks better. I think it's just a little crisper. Just a little crisper. I've tried a gate in the past, And the problem with the gate is that the gate doesn't work on frequency. It works on volume. And so I can take everything, well, I guess it does work on frequency, doesn't it? And when I was, where was I previously that I had a huge air conditioner noise problem? I guess it was not when I had a studio in my home prior to this, but when I had it in a different home. And the house, the AC tended to run a lot. And if you turned it off, the house heated up pretty quickly, and nobody in the house was happy with that. And so we had to run it. And I tried using a gate, but the problem was that the gate would close and would clip out some of my voice. And my voice must have been higher back then. And so that's why I steered away from a gate. And I tried compressors, and finally Paul Richards with PTZ Optics turned me on to the NS1 noise filter from Waves Audio, and have been using that for maybe 5 years or more. But I'm interested. And it was Tim at vMix that was fussing at me when he was a guest on the show, because we had the NS1 on his mic coming in. And I don't think you can put a filter on the master. Let's see. Master. Oh, you can put a filter on the master. How about that? I didn't know that. Good deal. Anyway, so I had it on his, and or maybe I had it on mine. Anyway, the return feed back to him, I guess, had an increase in audio. There we go. All right, so is there a link here that I think Dave tried to post a link, but it didn't come through. Let's see if we can find it right here. Thank you, Dave. Let's go to Bird Dog John. And this was the roundtable. Well, you can see it right there. Round table network discussion. And we'll do a share. There we go. Share. Copy. And we'll come back here, and we'll put it in the chat. So there you go. That's Bird Dog John on YouTube. Good person to follow. And what I've found is that, yeah, there you go. I haven't found it. But Tuesdays and Thursdays, they do the Bird Dog show. It started out on Twitch, and then they've included YouTube and I think Facebook and maybe some others. But it's a live online troubleshooting session for anybody that's got a problem. Come on in. I mean, they're shooting the breeze too, and he's got several of the techs that are in the various chats on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. So if people are posting questions, they can either answer them directly or refer them to him. And and then I think they have some sort of food that they try to get him to eat every week while on the air. So he has to be careful not to eat the wrong stuff. Anyway, there we go. Let's see. CCC says, Tom, I have the NS1 to overcome air conditioning, but when I use it, my voice does not sound right. How do you set it up? Well, I can show you how I set it up, but that may not necessarily be the way to set it up. But let's do a screen capture, of course. So let's go here, and I'm going to take my audio mixer, and let's see, let's just pop it out. And I've got it over here. I'm going to drag it in so you can see it. This is my mic right here, number 20, bouncing up and down. So I'm going to go into settings there. And I've got tabs here, general, plugins, EQ, compressor, etc. I'm going to go to plugins. Here's where my NS1 stereo is. If I select it, I can show the editor, and you can see this is what the NS1 looks like. And it's set for 50% right there. And the yellow dial is the amount of noise that this guy is taking out. So as I'm quiet and don't speak, it's taking out quite a bit of noise, because that's the server that's like, arm's length away from me. And I leave the air conditioning running. I mean, it's not on right this second, but it was running just a second ago, and you might be able to hear it. It'll take out cars on the street, but it won't take out motorcycles or diesel trucks. It helps with them, but it doesn't take it out altogether. So that's all I've done. In my case, I've got it set on 50% here with the knob up and down, up and down. There are some situations where I've been on gigs where I've used it, but I've kept it much, much lower, and other places where I've kept it much, much higher. At church, they've got a lot of reverb on the vocal mics. I think too much, but what do I know? But the NS1 will take out some of the reverb, so I keep it a little higher at the church, so that the audio going out doesn't have the same reverb as it does there in the congregation. All right, so that's how I set up the NS1. Yep, there we go. Close that, and we'll go back to that. There we go. And Martin is here. Good to have you. With the same little icon guy. Can we copy image? Can we show the image somehow? Well, we need it to be bigger than that. Come on, guys. There we go. And that's the little guy that he's trying to show me. Little thumbs up guy. But all we get is text. Yeah, it works in YouTube. On the YouTube feed, we can see it down here in the bottom, right down there. But when it comes across on the vMix Social, it does that. So yeah, so there we go. So there we go. There we go. There we go. Oh, I missed a comment here. Let me go back to it. Xavier said he meant a gate with the NS1. Well, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. And Jan says he uses the NS1 with the WNS. So there you go. Lots of different options. One of the things I like about Waves Audio is, let's go back there for just a second, is that they generally have a deal going on most everything I want. And if I buy more than one, I can get savings on the second one and the third one, and sometimes I can get, I can buy one and get the second one for half price. I mean, there are lots of different deals that they'll have going on. So yeah, it's cool. And then you can get your own little library of them going. So, but you can't update your Waves Audio desktop configuration utility, which is a little app that installs on your PC. You can't update that while vMix is running. I've tried that a couple times at church, and I'm like, oh yeah, it says close vMix, and I'm not going to close vMix. because it's a part of the service where I'm taking a little troubleshooting time instead of paying attention to what's going on. I know. I'm a bad guy. Bad guy. That is me. I am a bad guy. There's no doubt about that. And then there's debreath to Esser, and finally max volume. I have used max volume very successfully. Thank you for suggesting that. I'm using that at the church too because, and this might help some of you, I'm taking the main out from our Behringer X32 mixing board. So I'm not taking an aux out that's mixed for the live stream. I'm simply taking whatever's being broadcast there into the sanctuary. And what I found is that the music and the vocals volumes are here, but the speaking volumes are here. And so I'm having to constantly ride the volume meter in order to keep the music from just blasting everybody out and have this guy loud enough for everybody to hear. So I've got him up here for everybody to hear. And I know as soon as they start singing, it's going to come in at this level. And so I have to drop that mic. And what the max volume did, it allowed me just simply to set a ceiling, and nobody's volume can get higher than that. It doesn't decrease the pastor's speed. It keeps him right at the ceiling, but it brings everybody else down. Doesn't change the quality at all, at least not that I can tell. It just brings it to a volume level that's matched. So they ought to call it match audio and match volume instead of max volume, I think. I definitely recommend it if you've got an issue like that, where you've got where you've got a pre-mixed audio feed coming into you that may not be mixed the way you need it to mix. You do have some control to put a ceiling on it. And I think you can probably put a floor on it too. So yeah, there we go. Our favorite spammer come through, and Tom Willis got him. Good job. Good job. Let's see, what do we got here? Bill says, the pastor will ask me what I thought of the sermon. Yeah, that's a landmine, isn't it? Except I've been working on the computer and wasn't really listening. Well, I think what you can say is, I'm absorbing it. I'm still absorbing it. I'll have to tell you later. Because I do work with osmosis. That's one of my favorite principles. What is the C1? Let's look that one up. Just see if we can look it up like that. C1 compressor. Yeah, there we go. The C1 compressor, $29. It's a plug-in with a gate and a side chain. It's a compressor expander, a gate expander, and has filter EQ, split band dynamics, and internal and external side chaining. Well, that takes me out right there. I don't even know what that stuff means. I'm teasing, but yeah. There's also one for peas. You know how you get a problem with peas? Yeah. I need to pick that one up. And let's go back here for just a second to my page. And there's the demo. Yeah, there we go. And the Clarity VX is supposed to help with peas a little bit. I've used a de-esser in the past, and I've used something called Z Noise. Don't remember those particularly. I didn't buy them, so I must not have been that impressed with them. But yeah. Yep. Jeep and Dave is here. I moved our vMix to a different PC, and when I did, our Waves plugin stopped working. Now I can't load it. That's because Waves licenses the plugin to the destination, to the PC. So you'll have to download the Waves. What is it called? It is an app. I've got it here on my system. It is the Waves Central. Waves Central. And you need to download and install Waves Central on the new PC. And then you can go in and change the license for the plugin from the old PC to the new PC, and then download it to the new PC and install it. So it's a little clumsy. Waves, I'm sure, does that to keep people from pirating their stuff, because Waves doesn't know, that you have a license to use it on the new PC. It's not like you buy it and then you can use it wherever you want to. It is licensed by the system. So that's why it's not working. I found out the same thing myself. I went to the church and I was like, okay, I've got all these cool plugins, and I downloaded it, and it was like, you can't use it because it's not activated on this system. So there you go. Yep, there you go. That's what I was trying to say. Xavier says it much better. Ken says that P, B, and T, peanut butter and tomatoes, caused a distortion known as sibilance. P's, B's, and T's. Yeah, and if you're one of those people that like the mic up here, you're really going to notice it. What was it? Oh, it was football game Friday night, last Friday. Local football team on the road. They had somebody that was doing the play-by-play, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago. Somebody was doing the play-by-play, and they had, the broadcaster's headset, and the intention is that mic sort of terminate right here, and they had it terminating right here, and every P, T, and B was painful. And part of the problem was that the particular broadcaster is just a wild child, and there was no teaching him anything. So my suggestion was to find a P, B, and T remover. Yep. All right, Otis says on the X32, send the audio to the stream mix buses and then to Matrix, then place a limiter and compressor on the buses and the Matrix going to the live stream. See, Otis, you've lost me already. You smart guys, I'm just not that smart. I just need something that just works without me having to work. I don't know if it's smartness or laziness. It could be a little both. Could be the motherboard. If you've moved vMix from PC number 1 to PC number 2, you had to, well, maybe you didn't know it, but you're only allowed to use vMix on 2 PCs as long as you don't use them simultaneously. And if you attempt to install it and activate it, or if you attempt to activate it on a third PC, it will refuse that activation until you deactivate it on one of the first 2 PCs. So yeah. Exactly. explosives. Ah, there we go. Now we're getting the whole story. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, did you have a problem with Windows? Did you have to reactivate Windows? Call Microsoft and reactivate Windows? Sometimes that's the case. Um, so that and vMix may have been the same way. Sometimes vMix will say, new hardware detected, and it will ask you to activate it again. But it could be the motherboard, or just kind of the whole configuration. Um, there you go. What he said. Yeah. 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 What he said. Well, boys and girls, that brings us to the end of another underwhelming episode of Streaming Idiots. Don't forget to like us. Only got 4 likes. Please like us. It helps the algorithm to push us up so that more people can be bored with this stuff. Don't forget, next week, Eamon Drew will be here live in the studio, in the flesh. It's going to be great. He's actually gonna. I think Ian's coming with him, one of the USA Tech Support guys, and they are gonna camp out at my place Wednesday night after the show. We're going to take them out to dinner and show them Fairhope, Alabama. So it'll be a lot of fun. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, I will catch you next week. If I can help you in any way, easternshore.broadcasting.com. We represent vMix and X Keys and Bird Dog and PTZ Optics and others, and build live streaming gear. So happy to help you with any of those projects. Or you can refer us to your friends. Refer us to your enemies. That's one way to get back at them. All right, guys. We'll send you out with this. Thanks for watching.